If you've been on the internet or social media for any amount of time, you might have met or been exposed to some users who call themselves femboys. Femboys are individuals who are typically male and dress and present themselves in an overly feminine light. Over the years, this community of people has seen incredible growth in popularity. From YouTube to Twitter to Reddit and even Facebook, this community has effectively broken into the mainstream internet culture. From memes to artwork to everything in between, femboys have cemented themselves as a constant normality. Yet, with this gigantic rise of this community came the inevitable backlash. People who did not approve of this self-expression of these individuals. Hate raids, harassment, death threats. This is the internet after all. So today I wanted to delve into this internet femboy culture. And what better way to do this than actually talking to the femboys themselves? I got 3 members of the femboy community to talk to me over Discord, to discuss their views and opinions on gender identity, sexual orientation, and the general presence of the femboy community online. What are their opinions on this massive rise in femboy culture? How has being a femboy affected their lives personally? What do they think are the biggest problems facing this huge community? All that and more as we explore the internet. First off, could you state your name/Twitter alias, your age, and your pronouns?
So, my name is Benji, or at least that's what I go by on Twitter. And my Twitter is @FemBenji. I'm 24, and my pronouns are he/him.
My Twitter alias is Floofness2, or Extra Floof, I guess is the actual. Extra Floof. That's my like name. I'm 31 years old, and my pronouns are he and him.
So I go by, well, my thing on Twitter says Dreamy, but the handle is FemDreamy. I'm 21 and I use any pronouns.
So, give us a little information about your online presence. What do you do online? How would you describe it?
I kind of just post pictures of my stomach mostly. Like, that's kind of it. And I don't know. I'm sort of a recluse, so I sort of stick to my own corner.
Yeah. So normally I just kind of get on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll post like some pictures in like my femboy outfits or something like that, and then I will maybe interact with a few people and comment on some other people's pictures and stuff, and then I just get off.
I mean, I just basically post pictures of myself on Twitter. I don't know, like I'm just kind of having fun, like being myself for the first time in my life, I guess. I don't know. I never grew up like going on social media or anything like that, so it's just a way for me to like kind of interact with the world in a way for like the first time, like where I'm being myself, I guess.
Yeah, so you are somebody who identifies as a femboy. Tell me, what is your personal definition of a femboy?
Femboy to me is just anybody who like identifies basically as a male, but wants to look and appear effeminate in like whatever ways they choose. Like, for some people, being a femboy might just be not being like all that masculine, if that makes sense. Like, but for some other people, like being a femboy might be that they're just like actually really wanting to like be like a much more effeminate version of themselves while still maintaining like some guyishness, I guess.
I think that really depends on who you ask, but again, it's my interpretation is like, I feel like it's sort of an expression of self, sort of like an in-between, I guess. How do I put this? It's like, you know how some people are like emo and like that's like their style or their thing. So I think some people consider it sort of like a style, whereas others like consider it like just a part of their identity, or like that's just what they are. Like I know there's some people who consider it sort of like a gender thing. So I think that's why it's like it's kind of a complex answer or a complex question. It's like a femboy isn't just one thing; it can be a ton of things.
Well, I would say a femboy is just someone that is more in touch with like their feminine side, I would say, but not quite like a full trans type thing. Like so I would say like, yeah, just a guy that is a bit more open to being feminine than a typical guy would be.
So, tell me a little bit about your history as a femboy. Was this something you were always interested in, or was it something that was influenced by the internet or by other people? Tell me a little bit about that.
I think it was like when I was around 15 or 16, I wasn't really feeling like I fit in as a boy, sort of. I didn't know what to call that at the time. But if we go to like internet history, that is just an absolute train wreck. Oh my god. Because I found out about femboys originally from iFunny, which is a desolate wasteland. Never go there. It's horrible. And it was bad. It was really bad. Like thankfully personally I didn't experience a ton of bad shit, but you know, the first like time I interacted with other femboys was on a Discord server. It was like the first time I ever interacted with people who were like somewhat similar to myself, I guess, in terms of like that sort of feminine expression, I guess. Just boys who want to be cute and stuff. Oh my god, I can't remember the server admin's name, but he was a piece of shit. He was flirting with everybody, and he was legitimately trying to create a harem. And then all the people who were like, wow, this sucks, left and made their own server. And then that ended in just flames as well. And then I didn't go on a single like Discord femboy server for like 2 years after that, because everyone I'd been on was just horrible and toxic. And I think it's a lot of, I don't know, projecting in a lot of those places. I haven't seen that too much recently though. I joined a femboy server like a couple months ago, and it was weird that it wasn't a chaotic hellscape.
I spent a long time, like a long part of my life, actually wanting to transition. I probably knew when I was like 4 years old that I didn't like being a boy, and maybe it's not so much that I didn't like being a boy, it's that my parents taught me to not like being a boy, because they really wanted me to be like tough and stuff like that. They did like, my dad was like super hard on me.
Right.
But anyways, like so for me, like it started out actually finding like hormone therapy, like to try and transition at like 27 years old. I started doing that, and it was part way through my transition that I went on to Twitter and I learned what a femboy was, and I was like, that's kind of cool, I kind of like this more. And so I just decided that I wanted to be a femboy instead of like full on transitioning to female. Like I don't know, it just kind of fit me more, I guess. In my head it was very much just X and Y, like, you know, there's two genders basically. And then I just got on the internet one day and I was like, oh, it's a lot more fluid than that.
I would say it's kind of like something that fits my natural aesthetic, I would say. So like previously I used to like try to present as masculine as possible, like, you know, wear masculine clothes, work out, get like, you know, the typical like faux hawk type of haircut type, like a while ago. And I only really did that because, you know, if I asked all my friends, you know, my friends that are girls, usually they would say something like, oh yeah, definitely, you look better this way than you do the other way. but I always felt like I personally never liked the look. Like I always liked dressing like a bit more feminine, or like, you know, a bit more androgynous, I guess, and having my hair a bit longer, like things like that. And I would say kind of like if I would ever go to like a store, like a clothing store or a shoe store, I would always kind of like notice like that the selection for women's clothes was like way more like interesting than the men's selection, like something like that. It kind of started with it was like back in, was it either 2019 or 2020? There was a meme going around, and this guy kind of walks up to this other cosplayer. I'm thinking like it was a girl or that was doing the cosplay, and he said like, "Oh, you're looking real cute," and then the cosplayer turns around, and he's like, yeah, and like nodding his head, and then he's like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "My name's Felix." He says it like a really deep voice, and it kind of like, he's like, whoa, I didn't expect that. So that was kind of like when I realized it was like, oh, there are people that can like pull this look off like really good. Like I feel like a lot of femboy stuff is kind of inspired by like the androgynous look of like guys in like anime and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people also took like maybe inspiration from that, and then a lot of people from that also figured out that like being a femboy was like a thing where, you know, you're not like a cross-dresser necessarily, or like a drag queen. Like I feel like a femboy is like one step below that. Like, you know, you don't see femboys usually like putting like fake breasts on or wearing high heels or like lipstick or anything like that. They prefer more of like an androgynous thing rather than like a full-on like feminine look. So that was kind of like what he was doing. It kind of, as I got like more comfortable with like my own you know, identity or in my own sexuality and stuff, I became more open to like being a femboy, and then that's what kind of when I started my Twitter account. Like people and I take inspiration like from my outfits on like people that I've seen on Twitter. So that's kind of how you figure out like femboy culture and fashion and stuff. You just kind of like look around and see what other people are doing and try to mess around with it. Other than that, I would say that's kind of like how it all went down. I don't really know.
So, you are someone who has an online social media presence, whatever that may be, in this case, Twitter. But do you feel, in general, right, that the internet is a safe space, or is it more hostile for someone like you, who is constantly defying these rigid gender norms?
Well, I don't interact with many aspects of the internet. Like, I spend most of my interactions online happen through Twitter. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in those like places where like the places of the internet where you most reside in and where you most interact with people, is that place for you? Do you feel like that is a safe space for someone like you?
Yeah, definitely. Like where I go online and stuff like that, like I don't face much hostility in things like that. I try to avoid things like that as much as I can in my personal life. Like I know I've heard websites like 4chan can be a little bit more open to like quote unquote free speech, you know, which a lot of the time includes things like hate speech and things like that. So I avoid platforms like that.
Yeah. So, like the area that the internet that you interact with most is a safe space for yourself, but other aspects of the internet and other places in the internet might not be. Is what?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, based on my experience, I tend to hang out in the more moderated areas.
Okay. And you would say that Twitter is a good place for that?
Yeah, Twitter seems to be quite moderated. You can't really you can't really go around insulting people for very long before it comes back to bite you.
I think it can be hostile, but it depends on how big your audience is. I don't think I've ever received a pejorative response to anything I've posted. So let's hope that continues. But I think it can be a safe place, but isn't necessarily a safe one. Um, you know, I have I have some friends who would just get reported into oblivion for just, posting a picture of them in a skirt. So it really, really depends. I think I just got lucky. But I don't really interact too much, so I don't really interact in a way that would constitute a negative response, because I mostly keep to myself.
I would say it's pretty safe. There are some people I know. There's always Twitter drama, especially even in the Femboy community, with some people like it may be resulting in like pedophilia and stuff like that, because there's a lot of minors that are trying to do Femboy stuff on Twitter, and then you have like these old creepy men kind of like hitting on them, or even like other Femboys are kind of just also being very suggestive with them, or maybe like hitting on them, which isn't like something you should be doing. So I mean, like for them, no, it's probably not a very safe space. If you're underage, I don't really think you should have a Femboy account anyway, honestly. And but for me, I think it's fine, because there's a lot of people who are very encouraging of what you do, and the only people looking for Femboys usually are people that want to see Femboys or other Femboys. And so you get to know people and make new friends and connections, and so it's really nice. It was a good decision, I think, making social media, even if I regret it sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So going off that question, do you think transitioning away from the online world and into the real world? Do you think that the real world is a safe space in that same regard? Do you feel supported in your life with the lifestyle you
no.
live? No.
No, where I live is like super conservative space. Like since I started transitioning, I've not really felt comfortable going out anymore. I used to really like swimming, but that's not something I feel totally comfortable doing now.
Yeah. So the real world you would feel is more hostile.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I boy mode all day, every day.
Maybe if I like lived in California, yeah. But no, I think I don't know if anyone would care that much, because I've only like been out in like semi-feminine outfits, like not really like full on a dress type thing or a skirt. So just kind of just a bit more androgynous. But like if I did that, I think at least in the city I live in, most people would be okay with it. I'm sure they might like give me some like looks, like what's going on here, but generally they're fine with it, because I've been I have some friends that are like trans, and so they obviously are they're female, so they dress female, and I think just everyone around the city seem pretty accepting of that. But I'm sure there are gonna be people that are gonna like point fingers and like say something if they see you. But I think it'd be relatively safe, but maybe a bit uncomfortable, honestly.
I don't even go outside if I'm not dressed completely just like a boy. I refuse to go outside dressed like a femboy. I'm too scared to. And I know that's probably just me, because I actually live in a pretty understanding city, but it's like I wouldn't feel safe if I went outside like that.